Welcome back. Look, the research is clear. What we do works. There isn't any doubt about that. In 1950s, when Hans Eysenck said psychotherapy wasn't any more beneficial than a placebo, he was wrong. The data is overwhelming. The data is also very clear. No particular model or technique will help you improve your outcomes. What's more, our field continues to struggle with dropout. We spend a lot of time and effort getting people into therapy, and then they don't continue in therapy until they've achieved a change in their well-being or functioning. In addition, a significant percentage of the people that we work with who do stay, 30 to 40%, end up experiencing no benefit despite an outlay of time and money. How can we get better? Well, the bad news is that much of what our field has pursued really doesn't have a return on investment. What is that? Clinical training, continuing education credits, supervision, etc. Is it any wonder, really, why outcomes, when we look as far back as 1976, the first meta-analytic study that was done by Smith and Glass, and compare the outcomes of psychotherapy from that study to current meta-analytic studies, we find no improvement in the overall effect size of psychological treatment. Don't get discouraged. Despite the fact that our outcomes have remained stagnant for decades, there is a way to improve them. We've been talking about that under the guise of feedback-informed care. It's a way of working that improves outcomes, retention, and also can help you become a more effective therapist. What we do know is client engagement is the key to success. We also know that the alliance among all the variables that contribute to outcome is key. Tracking progress and the alliance via standardized tool like the ORS and SRS can give therapists vital clues about those people that they're not connecting with and not helping in real time so that they can do something to improve the chances of helping that particular clients. But whether or not feedback works for you, it turns out depends on your attitude. We know from the research that therapists who value feedback and opt to receive it by using standardized tools like the ORS and SRS have better outcomes. Nevertheless, and here's the frightening part, of the vast number of people who hear about feedback-informed treatment, very few go on to implement it successfully in their work. For example, in one study, despite being presented with the research about the benefits of routinely seeking feedback via formal measures, only 60% of therapists in an agency opted to administer the measures on a routine basis. So, where does the objection come from? When I talk to therapists, they frequently say things like, well, maybe the clients won't like it. But here again, there's actually some research evidence to say that's not the case. When surveyed, 92% of people in healthcare say that they like the use of outcome measures. This suggests, sadly, that most of the objections tend to come from therapists, that our attitude about using formal paper and pencil measures might get in the way of this critical process. It turns out that how therapists feel about outcome measures also influences what they do with the feedback when they receive it. In fact, those therapists who do use feedback, according to research by Wolfgang Lutz out of Germany, only discuss it about 60% of the time with their clients. Only 27% of the time do they adjust therapeutic interventions. And I'm talking about when the client is saying that the alliance between themselves and the therapist is encountering problems and when they're not experiencing progress. Only about 30% of the time do they vary the intensity or dose. And only 9% of the time, about 1 out of 10 cases, do they consult with others about what they might be able to change about the work that they're doing with a client for which there are problems. Suffice it to say, there is little use in asking for feedback and then ignoring it. Among those who never get started, there are some common objections. I understand these. We are busy professionals. One of them is, of course, it just takes too much time. Another is that somehow it might conflict with a particular practitioner's therapeutic style or approach. And the third is that clients won't like it. Now, as I've already indicated, the data seem to say that actually clients value completing the measures. So what we do know is that the attitude the therapist has about administering the forms, doing routine outcome measuring, can really influence the impact of the measures in clinical practice. So much so that the data show that therapist attitudes really predict whether they'll implement ROM successfully in their work. Sometimes when I talk about the measures, I hear an objection from the therapist, and one of those objections, and I think it's a very realistic concern, is that clients won't like it. That's what our whole business is about. Our business is about helping clients. But let me reassure you, the data is actually fairly clear. In a large survey of consumers engaging in treatment, 92% when asked said they valued the opportunity to give feedback via formal measures. So it doesn't really seem to have to do with clients feeling upset by the administration of such tools.